think that variety is the spice of life? Maybe the things that are different are just a little more interesting? Then this episode is for you. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of Channeling Hallmark, the podcast where we talk about all the things that make us feel warm and fuzzy, like when you get one of those really big hugs from someone that you love. We're your hosts, Dylan Cashbaugh.
And Keetin Markey.
And today is a very special episode,
yes,
but also a little bit different than our usual. Keetin, what are we doing?
So today we are not going to do a movie review, just so you know. We were initially going to do the movie review of a couple films that were recommended by our guest. One of those films is her favorite warm and fuzzy film, which is Willy Wonka with Gene Wilder, which scarred me as a child, but we were going to venture into it for a rewatch. But life be lifing, and we are actually about to go out of town and thus will not have time to do this. And
yeah, we got busy.
We got really busy with a really, really fun project. We are actually going on a cruise out of Florida called the JoCo Cruise, which is this incredible, inclusive, nerdy, very, very fun group of people cruise. And we were asked to help produce a morning show. And so prepping for that has been kind of all of our time outside of work and our actual jobs, because we both actually have jobs too, besides the podcast. And thus we're doing a 2-part episode because we had an incredible conversation with a dear friend, Abby Wren, who is a huge advocate for being different and being confident in who you are, as well as an incredible makeup artist.
Yeah, it's an amazing conversation. So we really wanted to include as much as possible, which happens to just be enough to get 2 episodes out. So that's what we're going to be doing this week and next. And before we actually move off of the JoCo thing, I do want to take just a moment to say how my awesome wife and co-host is also hosting the JoCo morning show on the JoCo Cruise. And we actually have a teaser out. We'll link it in the show notes because it's really cool. And I think you'll see just how awesome and talented she is.
Aww.
So just wanted to take a moment to brag about her.
Thanks, babe. It's so funny. I didn't sign on the project as a host. They brought me in as a producer and just kind of to help them build the show and actually go on the cruise. And then they obviously know I do have some background with that. And they asked me. So I said, you know what? Why not? And it has been a lot of work, but such rewarding work to be able to dive back into that part of my creative self.
Good. Well, I know you've been super busy. And when I'm super busy, I love a good cup of tea.
I
Keetin,
do too.
Do you have some tea?
Oh my God. Dylan made me this tea. He's like, do you want tea? I was like, yes. This is another Republic of Tea, which it's my goal. Eventually we will have them sponsor us because I love them so much.
Yeah, full context, we got a big old Republic of Tea variety pack. So we start each of these by just having a look and seeing what sounds good. And this time, I'm really excited.
I know, and also kind of what hits the theme of the episode. But this, and I love this one because there is a butterfly on the package. And butterflies to me represent rebirth and embracing like individuality. And I love butterflies. Side note, but this is ginger peach tea. It is not super gingery. It's actually just really lovely and peachy, but I'm going to take a good old sip of it. Listen, here we go. Oh, this is something I've noticed about Republic of Teas now that we've been like really leaning into teas, especially Republic of, is that the reason I love these teas is that they're all so smooth. Mm-hmm. You taste every flavor, but it's very, very smooth regardless. None of them really punch me in the face. And when I want a nice, warm cup of tea, I really don't want to be punched in the face with the flavor. So I really appreciate it.
Or in any way. No punches in the face.
No, I don't think being punched in the face in any way is anything that I ever want. But yes, I'm really a huge fan of this tea. It's delicious and it has caffeine in it. So we're recording this in the morning and I'm going to just be jacked all day.
Love it. And I love any tea with ginger because I think ginger is such a great ingredient / flavor that can really help put your stomach at ease and is just really soothing to me. I love ginger.
I do too, especially before traveling.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get all of that tummy stuff situated.
It's important to do. Now, we have this tea that we are not going to spill. Instead, we're going to sip some hot cocoa. Hot cocoa is something that we encountered recently that made us feel a little warm and fuzzy and optimistic about the world. Keetin, do you have any hot cocoa you want to share this week?
I do have some hot cocoa for this week. One of my first production assistant jobs in this industry, in Los Angeles specifically, was working on the Screen Actors Guild Awards. And as a young woman who was an actress growing up, moved to LA initially to pursue acting and on camera stuff, being in that room, being at that award show was always just such a out of body experience, being surrounded by all these people you grew up watching and, admiring and being able to see them like on a personal level and getting to interact with some of them. It was always it was like the coolest job. I'm so fortunate that I've continued a wonderful relationship with my SAG Awards family, and that literally every single year since 2012, I have had the privilege of working with their team, whether just for one day, whether for multiple months. But this past week was the SAG Awards, and I again got to work with my amazing sponsorship team. And it's a long day. You get there super early. It's a production day. Then you have like 30 minutes to basically get fully red carpet glam and ready. And then you're kind of hobnobbing with some celebs, but also trying to do your job at the same time. And it's exhausting, but it is such an out-of-body experience. And you just feel the love for the team at the SAG Awards. No matter the change of production company, no matter the change of where it's being aired, the core team is still there. And I'm just so grateful. And I felt so loved. And I think there's something in this industry when you continue to go back and work with a team that you really feel appreciated by. And it was just a really, really special day where I felt appreciated, but I also appreciated every single moment. And every time I work that show, I feel the same. So that is my hot cocoa. I'm still getting warm and fuzzies just thinking about that day. And I hope I can continue to work with that team for as long as they will have me.
I think it's really cool when you can find people that you work with that you do feel that connection with. The hot cocoa that I want to share is that this week was a pretty exciting week for us because we had the premiere of the new season of Survivor happen.
Yes.
And something that Keetin and I have now done for a few seasons is after we watch the premiere, we then do a draft of the different players where we have, if they win immunity, it's this many points. If they make it to merge, it's this many points, etc. So that at the end of the season, we have a winner. And it kind of makes it where we are personally a lot more invested in what happens to the show, where even if sometimes there's players that we like, but they're not on our team, so we're like almost kind of rooting against them. But it's a really fun way to experience a show that has been going on for almost 50 seasons now that I know you work on. But I think it makes the viewing experience a lot more fun and more interactive. So my hot cocoa is just learning to do that with one of our favorite shows and also recommending that to other people. I think doing a draft with someone that you're going to watch competition reality shows with can be such a fun way to enjoy them. So I think everybody out there should give it a try. And if you want to see what our categories are for our draft, just let us know and we can share that.
I should note that every time Dylan kicks my butt, even if there have been seasons I have chosen the winner, but Dylan just has a better draft and has collected so many freaking points beyond my person winning that he beats me. I don't think I've ever won. I
think it's the one game where I actually consistently beat you rather than you consistently beating me.
Wish me luck this season. We will be drafting our players shortly, but we can keep you updated.
That is our hot cocoa. Keetin, are you ready to get to our interview with the incredible Abby Wren?
I would love to.
Let's do it. Today we are joined by Abby Wren. Abby is so many different things that I don't actually even know how I can summarize in a quick sentence or two, except by saying that you're a truly amazing person who actively makes the world a better place. So thank you for that. But Abby, you are an artist with seemingly no limits to what your canvas can be. But I think what might be most interesting is when you make yourself your canvas. So starting off the conversation, what does it feel like to make yourself into art?
Oh my gosh. Wow. First of all, what an intro. I am so flattered, and that is so kind of you. Man, it's been such a wild journey for me over the years, and transforming myself into the art has taken a lot of years to get to that point. But, being an artist of so many different kinds of disciplines, it's really just transformed over the years. It started with makeup, and now it is in many different forms. But yeah, it's very empowering to turn myself into the canvas. It all started when I lost my hair to alopecia, back when I was 15 years old. And since then, it has just been an empowering experience all around to turn myself into wild, crazy creations. And my hope is just that it inspires people out there. So yeah, it's the joy of my life to do that kind of work.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about how you became this artist. I mean, I know you said your career kind of started in makeup, but even as a kid, were you always doodling? Were your parents artists? What kind of brought the artistry out of you?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a good question. I think it was always a part of who I am, just organically. Like some people are just drawn to math and science, and I was the complete opposite. I was always artistic. I was always painting my nails. I was always playing with my hair. I had long red hair as a kid, so that was a big part of my identity growing up. And yeah, I was just creative. I like to make things with clay. I was painting all over my poor parents' house. Oh my gosh. It was just kind of like a part of who I was. But it really all changed, I would say, when I lost my hair to alopecia. That is when I leaned into artistry even more, because it became my way of expressing my femininity and really showcasing like that feminine side of myself. It became makeup was the art. So it just switched from paints to eyeliner, really.
How early on did you kind of find that as a way of self-expression? Was that like something that, at 15 right away you're like, oh, well, I can do this? Or was that a kind of a journey to get to that point to learn how to express yourself in that way?
Oh my gosh, it was absolutely a journey to get to that point. I think in part too, because I grew up in rural Montana. So I grew up on a Native American reservation way in the corner of kind of northwestern Montana. And it was way off the grid, away from any urbanness at all. And so there weren't a lot of like, honestly, bright colors or like stores that I could go to get inspiration. We eventually got one Walmart in my town, and that was a big deal. So if that gives you a sense of like how small of a community it was really, really small. So we didn't have a lot of resources. And, I went through all of that long before social media existed in the way that it does today. So I think I was always kind of searching for a creative outlet to express myself. And as an artist, that took many different forms as I was a kid. But I think it really was, I think it blossomed out of a need for creativity and out of a need for like finding color and just being inspired. So I kind of just started creating things myself. I was the most inspired when I had a high school art class. It was like just art 101, like the only art class that my school had. And it was like my reprieve. I was obsessed. I just doodled the whole way through any other classes like math and English and stuff like that. And so it just was always my my outlet for art, my outlet. So yeah, I don't know. It's always been a part of me, and just a part of who I am, but it definitely started out of a need for that, I think.
You said you grew up on a Native American reservation. Are you Native American?
No, I am not, but it's a long story. My father is a professor at the Salish and Kootenai Tribal College there. So he is the dean of the education department. So we grew up, my sister and I both grew up on the Flathead Reservation in northwestern Montana. So it was a pretty incredible way to grow up. Like we just learned this whole other culture, and it was a huge part of my life. Like that community raised me. So it just gave me such a different perspective for understanding different cultures, and like a non-native culture integrating with that Native American culture. It was a really incredible experience, and that community, they're all like family to me. So I hold that region of Montana specifically very close to my heart. The little town is called Polson, and I rep Polson very strongly, just because they raised me, they made me into the person I am. So and it's a really interesting dynamic, like having both of those cultures coexist, when that land, that reservation was supposed to be for the tribe only. And then the Dawes Act in like the late 1800s changed all of that and allowed white settlers to build and use that property if the tribe could not maintain a farm throughout a season. So it's a whole historical thing, but they basically stole that land back. And now we have integrated reservations all across America. So it's a whole thing. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing in the sense that I was able to grow up with like deep appreciation for that community. Like this is just right in front of me, but the last time I went back was in May of this year, and I taught a makeup workshop for the tribe, and they made me this beautiful hat. They like hand beaded with all my favorite colors. This woman, Kristen Two Teeth, like made this hat for me out of appreciation. And so it's, the tribe is like very, very, very near and dear to my heart. My dad speaks Salish, and like it's just a part of my family.
That's so cool. Do you think that that has influenced, because I've seen some of your art too, has that, obviously that's influenced you like as a person, but your art and your self-expression, do you think being able to grow up in that environment helped you do that and kind of find that artistry route?
Well, that's a really good question. I think that I think more than anything, it was acceptance that I learned from that community, because the Native American style of art is really different than my style. It's, it's tradition and it's rooted in their culture. But I think growing up, probably seeing so much of that and constantly being around it and seeing self-expression, like the dances at powwows, that was a part of like every sporting event that we saw. So it was woven into my life kind of subconsciously. So that celebratory nature and like expressing of the arts is probably definitely impacted by being there. Yeah.
I feel like looking at a lot of your work, it's things that at least as an outsider, I might think would be very kind of honestly like urban inspired and like, these bright colors, almost graffiti like things. Yeah. But you oftentimes have a juxtaposition of that in a more natural environment. And at least on your website, you mentioned inspiration from those like mountains that you grew up in and those kind of natural landscapes. So it does feel like an interesting kind of juxtaposition almost of urban and natural. And I'm curious how you approach that as an artist and how things like that kind of inspire and influence your art.
Yeah, that's so cool that you noticed that. And really, it's fun for me to hear it through your perspective, because I'm just too close to it to see it that way. So that's really, really cool to hear it from your perspective. But I think that's absolutely right. I think moving to Los Angeles for me was like a huge catalyst creatively. I had never I had just never been in urban environments like that. I grew up in rural Montana, and then I went to college in Alaska, like very rural and way away from everything, no big cities. And then I moved to Denver, and then that transition to Los Angeles changed everything, because I was suddenly around sunshine a lot. And, that does a lot to the human brain. Okay. Let me tell you, I was just so much happier, and I was seeing things that I had never seen before. I was eating whole new foods. You guys know, Los Angeles is a magical place. And I think I felt a lot of that through a lot of urban experiences. So I definitely think that impacted my style, my obsession with color. I cannot not wear color. It's a part of my DNA at this point. And that comes out in my art as well. But I really love hearing that, you see some of that graffiti style, because I'm heavily impacted by that street culture. I think because it was so different than what I grew up with. It was like the opposite of what I knew. I knew pine trees. I know long dirt roads. I know not having any cell service and camping in the woods. I grew up with that. So I think as an artist, I was really craving something that was so foreign and so different. And being in a big city like LA was pretty much that.
I mean, I think that kind of leads into you were craving difference. And I think, the importance of things that are different and valuing difference rather than shying away from it has seemingly inspired you in some ways. And I'm curious if you want to speak about that at all.
Yes. Oh my gosh. How long do you have? Because I could speak about that literally forever. Seriously, I think it was a lesson I unintentionally learned over the years. And again, it was a lesson that alopecia taught me, losing all my hair and having an autoimmune disease affect the way that I visibly look and show up in the world was something I never could have predicted. I never really asked for, it was out of my control. And yet that experience like changed my entire lens and how I see the world, because it just showed me a vulnerability and taught me a side of empathy that I don't think I could have known in the same way without it, you know, because it's not really until you go through an experience like that that you're able to have like true raw empathy for someone else that looks different. And even though it's just hair and I'm physically fine, it's not that different in my opinion, but it still affects the way people approach you. You know, I'm often mistaken for a man, even though I wear bright lipstick and I have big hoop earrings. You know, it's a real thing with alopecia. I get called sir, and people say weird things online. You know, it's just part of it. But I think that experience of looking different has allowed me to shift and see this little corner of the world, and like people that feel like their voices aren't heard, and people who get looked at differently and treated differently, even though it's 2025, like it happens every single day. And so I think it has, over time, over years, you know, I lost my hair when I was 15, so it's been a lot of years now, and it has just taught me over time how special that is and how much of a gift it is to be able to see the world through that perspective and to celebrate it instead of letting it weigh on you and letting it tear away at, you know, your self-esteem and everything that you are. We have this opportunity, if we can just work through all that over time, and hopefully through some art therapy, per my suggestion. But over time, you know, if you can work through some of that and really come to understand something that could be negative in a really positive light, if you can hold on to that, like our differences are everything. It's what sets us apart from everyone else. Like we were really not all meant to look the same. And it drives me crazy that people feel like they need to look like everyone else and need to be like everyone else. That's just like not who we are as a species. And so yeah, it's different is dope has become my whole message over the years, and something I speak very loudly about online, because I really, really want other people, especially women, to understand that that's actually our superpower all along, you know?
What I guess, just as a woman who, you know, I haven't lost my hair. I oftentimes look at social media and feel like, oh, I don't look the right way, or I don't fit in the right thing. What gave you the courage, or how did you find the courage of that self-love and that self-acceptance? You are such an advocate for it, where like I can look to you and be like, I'm inspired. If Abby is so confident, and Abby is so beautiful, and Abby can do it and can talk about it, where did you find that courage? Was it something that just was a switch that turned on one day, or was it something that you had to work really hard to get to?
Yeah, it was absolutely something I had to work hard to get to, because, you know, it actually, in a lot of ways, maybe alopecia made it easier for me, right? Because I didn't have a choice. It just happened. And it forced me to look at myself in the mirror differently at a really young age. So I was 15. Those are the formative years of like, you're showing up to your high school and wearing the same thing as everyone else because you're trying to fit in. You're trying to find your group and your community at that age. You're just trying to figure out who you are, really. Like, you know, it's a tough time in general. But then to have my physical marker of femininity, my long red hair, just taken away from me, like I had no other choice, is what I'm getting to, really. So I think I was just forced to confront that earlier, and I'm grateful for it. You know, it over the years, yes, it has been a lot of work, and it has not just been like a light bulb moment that like stays on. Like, of course there are ups and downs, and especially, you know, as you get older, and you know, just with social media, there's so much pressure in general for women. So it's hard no matter what. And especially if you look a little different, there's always a pressure. For years, I would be in the shower and I would pretend like I was washing my hair to just be like, wow, that was like a part of my experience at one point. And it took a long time to kind of move through that loss and actually let it go. But on the other side of that, if anyone is listening and struggling with anything that's difficult, on the other side of that struggle is such a beautiful wave of truly freedom, like being free. I could care less if someone saw me with a full face of makeup, if they saw me with no makeup, if they saw me in my underwear, if they saw me dolled up at a gala. Like, I don't care. I genuinely don't care what people think of me. And that has been a long road to get there, and it's not easy. Like, as women, we're faced, like you said, we're faced with that all the time. You're confronted with standards of beauty that we didn't create, that society and mostly men in society have set the precedent for, right? So it's like, it's never ending, but I think it's really, really important to be able to, over time, find it within yourself to hold on to what you know to be true. And those are things that have nothing to do with how you look, really. You know, it's like, are you a good person? Are you honest? Are you courageous? Are you brave? Are you going to be a great friend? Are you going to be a great partner? Like, what makes you you beyond how you look? And it's a tough thing to let go of, really, especially as we sit down and put on our lipstick every day in the mirror, you know. But like, it might sound hypocritical coming from a makeup artist, but I really believe that. Like, the thing I love about makeup is the art of makeup. It's not that it makes me feel pretty or hot or whatever. It truly is the artistic form of makeup. Long-winded answer. But yes, it's been a really long road, and it also has come with time. You know, I felt really different at 21 and 25 and even 30 than I do now at 33. You know, it has taken a long time to get to that point where I really can let go of anything else that anyone could possibly think of me.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine, like, 15 years old, you're already dealing with so much like insecurity, and being a teenager sucks. So
Yeah,
I can't imagine what that mess must have been like. I guess I realize, for context, we probably should ask, can you clarify, what is alopecia?
Yeah, absolutely. Alopecia is an autoimmune disease caused by basically your white blood cells getting confused, is how I always describe it. So it unknowingly thinks that it's helping your body, but really it attacks your hair follicles on accident. So it's a little confused and it's attacking your hair follicles, even though there's nothing wrong with your hair follicles. So it can cause hair loss in 3 different forms. I think the most common kind of alopecia is called alopecia areata, and it is small patches that can form on the head and the scalp. And sometimes those patches can grow right back and you never see hair loss again. And sometimes those patches stay patchy for the rest of your life. And in other cases, they can start as patches and they can evolve into the next kind of alopecia, which is called alopecia totalis, which is the total loss of hair on the head. So that's what mine kind of evolved into. It started in patches, and within about a month and a half, almost 2 months, all my hair was gone. And then with time, it actually evolved into alopecia universalis, which is the total loss of hair on the head and body. So I lost my arm hair, my eyelashes fell out, my eyebrows fell out. And the crazy thing about alopecia is they really don't know a whole lot else about it. Like, even in the years since I first was diagnosed, there has not been a lot of new research. It blows my mind because it's been such a long time. You would think we would know more, but yeah, it's still kind of the same. You know, you can get steroid injections and hopefully stimulate some hair growth. And sometimes that works for people if they have small patches. But for those of us that have lost a lot of hair and it has gone between alopecia totalis or universalis, a lot of times that hair never grows back. But it's one of these autoimmune experiences, I'll call it, that just changes. There's so much variability in it. So your hair can totally grow back. And that's what happened to me. You know, I lost all my hair in high school, and in college, it started growing back again. And I was like, great, that's totally behind me. Never have to tell anyone ever. It'll be my little secret. And then sure enough, as soon as I meet the love of my life, I meet Wade, my now husband, my hair fell out again, like 6 or 7 months into us knowing each other. And I was devastated. I thought he would never love me, and that, you know, it was going to impact the way he felt about me. And of course it didn't. But yeah, my hair fell out again, and now it goes through these cycles of growth, regrowth, and falling out again, just as it pleases. So it's a wild ride. And for me, I've kind of chosen to for the majority of time, just keep it shaven, even though I get patches of regrowth. It's much easier on my mental health to accept being bald. And it's a statement. It's a statement to me. It's like taking back a little bit of control, from an experience that usually leaves you without a lot of control. So I like to keep my head shaven, and I like being able to talk about it, because when I was growing up and going through alopecia in a very rural town, I thought I was literally an alien. Like I thought I was the only person on the planet going through this. And I think that's why now as an adult, I'm so vocal and I try to talk about it any chance I get, because I know that out there's somebody listening who needs to feel like they're not alone. Like I needed that then, and I didn't have it. And so it took me a lot longer. Whereas now, like I can meet with young girls and they don't feel alone. It's like, yeah, we're twins. We're going through this together. It's all good. Life is great. Like we can wear cool hats and earrings, and like it's not the end of the world, I promise. So I'm always thinking of my younger self as I blab on and on about hair loss, because it's really, really important, and I needed that.
Well, and you do so much work, and I don't think people understand alopecia can affect any age. And
Right.
I know you've done so much work with young people who are dealing with alopecia or anything that makes them feel different. And you're also so good with kids. I've seen you with kids. What has kind of given you that language to speak to these young kids and to share with them and to make them feel confident about the different is dope message that you kind of walk through life with?
I think I feel a sense of responsibility, honestly. I feel like if I've done the work over that many years to really come to a place where I feel confident in myself, it wouldn't be right to be quiet about it and to just move through life and keep going. It's like, it is my responsibility to be there for someone else, because I went through it alone, and I know how challenging that was. And every time I meet a kid with alopecia, they teach me more about that lesson. They really do. Like they are so brave, and they are showing up to school now in a whole new world in 2025 with social media, with all these other external factors and different pressures that are much louder than mine were when I was growing up. And I just know that it's really, really hard. And it's I don't know, it's not challenging for me to be there for them. So I genuinely I don't know any other way. And I feel comfortable around kids, because kids are like the most pure form of humanity, right? Like they are unaffected by the world yet. And it's a beautiful thing. And they love each other. Like they don't know anything different unless we teach them that. So I think that if we start really early and you teach them how to love each other and to not judge each other. And if someone is bald, great, like amazing. How can we decorate our heads together? Like, how can we paint our faces? Look at all this room we have. We're a whole canvas. Like really, if that's what they're learning, then their perspective of looking different is going to be very different than mine was. And it'll be easier for them to move through the world, and hopefully they can package that message in their own way. And it's a ripple effect, right? Like, yeah. It's different with adults because we have so much other noise around us, but kids are like, I sound like such an old person saying this, but they literally are the future. Like it's important. You know what I mean? It's important. So
you sound like Whitney Houston, but it's a good thing. Whitney was great. We believe the children are the future. They are.
It's true. It's so true. And they're just amazing. They're so creative, and they have so much magic literally within them, just like waiting to be, I don't know, shared with the world. So they inspire me, and I feel comfortable around them. So I want to make them feel comfortable around me. And if we look the same, if we look different, like it doesn't matter. It's just, we're lifting each other up. So honestly, they're healing me just as much as I think I'm trying to help them,
Absolutely.
You've talked about when you were in high school having an art class as being a really important thing for you. You talk about working with these kids on learning how to express themselves through art. Can you just speak a little bit about, what you think the importance and impact of art in people's lives can be, as if we teach them how to use art in their lives?
Yeah, I think number one, like fundamentally, every person is an artist. It is just a part of humanity. It's something that sets us apart from so many other species out there. Like, we are artists. You're creating art right now. You're making a thing that never existed in the world. You're making a podcast episode. It's incredible. Like, really, it sounds silly, but it's so true. Like, we are made to make and create. I have create tattooed on my neck because it means so much to me that as humanity, we have this opportunity to do that in the world. I take it very seriously because it's incredible. It's incredible that you can write a book, you can condense your thoughts and put it down on paper, that you can paint an image of something that's never existed. That's amazing. And when you zoom out and think about it that way, it's just like, it's a part of humanity. And I think the only difference between an artist that is like paid for their work or taken seriously or like respected or whatever is they don't care. They're just putting it out into the world. They don't care what other people might think. It's only when you criticize yourself and you critique what you're putting out, or you let the world critique it, that we fail, because we stop putting it out. But it's brave to create art. So it's really, really important to me. And I think it's important to humanity, like as a whole. You know, how many of us have that song that just like moves us to tears, or you watch a video. It's a part of everything that we do as people. So for me, as a healing mechanism also, it has been the way that I think I've moved through my own traumas. Certainly with alopecia, it's been healing to paint my face into something else that never existed, and kind of put on a little bit of mask for a moment and transform into something that makes me feel courageous. Like, literally, I've painted myself into the Hulk. Like, you know, it's fun, and it can be light. It takes some of the seriousness away. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much going on in the world these days. We all know it, and we all endure it the same. But I think if you can lose yourself in an amazing book, or you can like create something from nothing, it's a fundamental part of our fulfillment as people, you know?
Absolutely.
That was part 1 of our interview with Abby Wren. We will have more of that next week for part 2, so get excited.
In the meantime, follow us across social media platforms at Channeling Hallmark, Instagram, YouTube, Blue Sky. Subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And you can also follow Dylan and I's individual Instagrams and see what we're up to on this cruise.
Yeah, we'll be sharing updates on there, and we'll also include the link to that teaser that features your favorite host, Keetin Markey. But again, please make sure that you comment, leave reviews. We want to know what everyone thinks about all these episodes, because we're excited about it and we hope you are too. But in the meantime, don't forget to channel Hallmark in your life.
Stay cozy, y'all. Bye-bye.
Channeling Hallmark is an independently produced podcast and is neither sponsored nor sanctioned by Hallmark or any other entity. Thank you for listening.